Welcome to the Dice Tower, a series of video reviews about board and card games. Here are your hosts, Tom Vassell and Sam Healy.
Hey folks, I'm Tom Vassell.
Z Garcia, how you doing?
Sam Healy, what's up, folks?
Today we're taking a look at a game from one of our favorite companies, Renegade x Libris, in which case you are basically collecting books and organizing a library.
I'm all about that, man.
Which sounds like an amazingly awesome theme.
Woot, give it up for the alphabet, y'all.
I love alphabetizing stuff. I love sorting stuff.
Okay.
I do.
I know you do.
Hats, especially.
Mr.
In the
We're doing a
H
top
section.
100 list, but he goes up to 250 instead.
Hey, that's not important right
That's how
now.
you do it.
All right, so this is actually a big box, a lot of things going on inside here. It is a worker placement game. How do you play it, Z?
Let me show you how to play. In the game, the players are going to be using these cards that they will draw and play to the table in front of them to organize their shelves of books, of magical books, and score victory points based on what they've been able to accomplish, which books they've gathered, which ones they've avoided, and even the stability of the shelf itself, how they have organized these cards. And so, that is the central focus of the game, drawing these and organizing them. The scoring based on these cards is right here across the top of this board, and it goes like this, quite simply. You first check that they're alphabetized. So good, if something is not alphabetized, it would get flipped face down. You will not count the books on that card. You are going to check the stability bonus, meaning the biggest rectangle that includes the bottom line here, which would be the third lowest line. So in this case, 6 cards there. You then check for a book that is the prominent work for the game. You pick one of these, and in this case, it would be the Fantastical Fictions. We put that right there to remind everyone, gather these books. You're going to get points for those. And then we also flip one to let everyone know, avoid these books. These are the banned books. You don't want those. You'll lose points for that. You would then score for having a nice balance of all the different kinds of books, except the banned ones, of course. You're going to get some points for that. And then also you'll have a secret one of these that will score some extra points for just you. No one knows which one this is, and you are trying to gather those for an extra boost. So that's basically what you are attempting to do and how you win. You are also going to be using the handy dandy dry erase board here to take notes on the different kinds of books everyone's collected, and then down here you can write in your score. The game does come with a dry erase marker that you can use on this and then wipe it clean. However, I have to say this copy, the dry erase marker is already dried and dead, so unfortunately we had to find a replacement for that. So, how do you actually do all this stuff? Well, you do it through some worker placement. And that part goes like this. You have these boards here, of which you are going to every round flip over as many as there are players. So let's say, for instance, we are playing with 3. Well, we would flip over 3 of these cards, and they each do something. But basically, it's new ways to gather cards and new ways to play cards. That's generally what they boil down to. And then the players are going to use their little characters to go here and gather cards, play cards, build up their little tableau. At the end of every round, you are going to check which of these has the lowest number, and that one becomes locked. We discard the others, and we flip over again 3 for the number of players, in this case 3 players. And those, once again, will give you new options, now including this one. And at the end of that round, we lock the lowest numbered one, and so on. If these are ever all used up, you simply reshuffle the ones that have been discarded, and you continue. And the game is going to end when a certain number of books have been placed on the table. You play one more round after that. The number of books is dependent on the number of players. So that's a general idea. Each player also has a board that they start with in front of themselves. This is sort of a home board. Everyone can have one of these, and they're all identical on the back. They simply allow you to send a little assistant there, and you can draw a card from the deck, or you can play one to the table, which they call shelving. Or you can flip these over and have a special power, which everyone will have a different one in that case. And so, for example, in this one, you would have the gelatinous cube there helping you out, and in this one, you'd have a mummy helping you out. And these all come with their own unique, this is a snowman, their own unique little meeples there. The Bigfoot and the gelatinous cube, of course, that actually looks like a, well, gelatinous cube. And so you can choose to play on that side, or you can choose to play the simplified version of it. So that's the general idea. Just gather the stuff you need. Be careful with placement. Be careful with the way you are arranging the cards in front of you. As soon as you do start playing a card in front of you, the next card must be played adjacent to that, and so on. You will grow this. You can never have cards that are not connected on the table, so doing this is not legal. It must go next to something that's already there. And manipulating those cards and drawing the right ones, etc., is the key to victory. Let me just show you a couple of these very briefly so you understand the way these work, and then we will be done here and we'll get to some final thoughts. So you have, for example, the wishing well here. You can send 2 people there with 4 players anyway. And it says you discard X cards from your hand and draw X plus 1. And you may shelve one of those newly drawn cards. We have the Assistants Guild over here that says you get to move one of your previously placed assistants from a home spot, one of these spots here, to a space occupied by an opponent's assistant. You have here the Shelf Masons Guild that allows you to shift any number of adjacent cards in your grid, and so therefore rearrange if you are attempting to get a nice shelf stability bonus, or if you simply need to make some room for a card you are not accounting for. This lets you manipulate the grid layout. We have the Tax Collector here. We have a Yard Sale. We have a Book Collector. Lots of different ones. You will notice some of them have a red background and a clock there instead of a lightning bolt. That means that this happens once everyone has deployed all of their characters. So at the end, in this case, it's the local draft house. Everybody who went there is going to flip over some cards from the deck, and they will be drafted by the players that attended the local draft house, and so on. But this is the general idea. Draw some cards, switch, replace, shift, that sort of thing. So that'll do it for me down here. Let's go back up top and let's get some final thoughts from everybody.
Okay, so first of all, I got to give it to the designer of the game. There's 152 book cards with 510 unique book titles. They are all different.
That's what unique.
And they're all thematic to the type of book. That's the other thing. You know?
Oh, yeah,
like
that's
if it's
true.
like a monster manual, the title will make sense in that style of book.
Well,
and
you said you read an article about how he did all that?
Yeah, like he came up with this whole spreadsheet system for how to combine the words to make titles that match the category.
That's marvelous.
And the values, like the number of symbols that showed up across them was even. It was, yeah, it's crazy. It's cool. It's fantastic. And I love that work went into it.
And it gives a really good visual effect. As you're putting these books in your library, it's easy to look at them. You don't need to worry about the titles. Just those symbols and the letters and numbers. That part of the game is phenomenally well designed and easy to look at and understand.
Yes.
But,
Yes.
It's a big butt.
well, it is. The worker placement
I like those.
boards.
I cannot lie, man.
The worker placement
We
boards.
cut that out. Why don't we edit that out?
The worker placement boards are more than hard to read.
They are.
Very much so. They're very hard to read.
I mean, in the last game we played, I was sitting right in front of them. I had the
So
best
was
seat in
I.
the house. I could see them, and I was picking them up and reading them, because it's not even just a little bit of text. There's a lot of text in some of them,
Yes.
and it's really poorly done.
It's a strange whoopsie that they stumbled across there. The text is white letters with a little bit of a shadow in tiny font, sometimes across pretty light backgrounds, which make them both.
Or busy backgrounds.
Yeah, it's like, wow, what happened? There's no cheat sheet for the players. I don't have one thing I can have in front of me that just tells me, whatever this place is, that's what it does. Cool, I don't need to keep checking over there.
Yeah.
And they change all the time.
Yeah.
Which means when you finally do learn the 2 or 3 new ones that are out there, well, they go away and you learn 3 more, figure out what they do. And it's going to make the first few games of this
Well, one of them sticks around, but
Yeah, but it is going to
saying.
make the first few games of this more challenging to engage in than they ought to be by far, unfortunately.
Yeah, I mean, I don't mind the whole switching things out and having different places to put workers. That's not a bad idea.
I enjoy that mechanism very much.
But because it's hard to read, it slows the game down. At the beginning of every round, you have to say, all right, what does this one do? What does this one do? Let's read them out for everybody. And then you have to remember all that. If you forget, you have to pick it up and read it. That's the problem with those. But the workers themselves are cool. I like that they give each character has their own specifically shaped meeple. That's neat.
Yes.
And the artwork is good. The fantasy artwork, it fits. It's just but that problem is very pronounced. The other concern I have with the game is the player powers are. I shouldn't say that they're not balanced.
They just kind of seem all over the place. They feel like they're all over the place.
Some of them are like, hey, to other players, and others are like, I'm working by myself. They should actually put on them, I think, something like very interactive. You know, like if you don't want that in a game. Like if someone does
character out.
Like you don't want to play with the snowman or the gelatinous cube, or some of them are just mean to the other players. The one guy lights cars on fire and burns them. You know.
For real?
That would be a very different game.
Legacy, baby! No, I guess so. For me, I don't necessarily care if they want to label them as how interactive they are, but they do kind of seem all over the place a little bit. But again, it is an optional thing. You know, you can just play on the other side.
I think this is one of those times where I might cut out the play. And I love player powers, but I might cut them out in this one.
I'm glad they included them. I think the meeples that they give you for each one of those are fantastic.
Oh, I'm using those even if we're not
gelatinous cube. That's so cool. The fact that one of them looks like the gelatinous cube. I mean, that's so neat. But yeah, I might want to maybe pick the ones we want for the game as opposed to just randomize them. You know?
Yeah.
Overall, I really, really enjoy the game, and my main issue is simply the text on the worker placement tiles. Is either put the text and symbology on there, or give everyone a player aid, or do both. Yeah.
Now, I like the game a lot. I wondered, because I have not played it as much as you, that I might come around on this, but I feel almost like I'm just playing to see, like, oh, I need that card. I'll try that card. I'll put these cards together. And it's hard to have like a solid strategy because you don't know what cards are coming up letter-wise, right? So you're kind of guesstimating, which is fine. I don't mind that, but I guesstimate on a whole lot of stuff. So when at the end, win or lose, I might go, what should I have done differently? Not really sure. I had a good time, but because the places come out in different orders and because other people go somewhere, now you can't go there, and that card you were going to take is gone. There's so many different variables in the game that I almost feel like there's not a lot of strategy and it's mostly tactics.
Well, I guess it probably is mostly tactical, but I think a big part of what you are managing as for yourself is the grid in front of you and how much room you leave between like A and G. But that kind of thing.
Yeah, but your strategy there can be completely blown out of the water by bad deck draws.
Sure.
And that's unfortunately one of the, at least from my perspective, that's one of the main mechanics of the game is simply top decking cards. Now, like the last game that we played, you got really lucky with the cards that you top decked. They just happened to be what you were looking for, and they were also happening to be the ones, the what is it called, the
Prominent Works.
Prominent Works, yeah. So you were top decking cards like a mad dog in that last game, and you were getting a lot of things, and you murdered us. Was that your strategy, or did you just no, it wasn't. You were simply getting lucky with the deck draws. That is most of what that was. And I have to be honest. I mean,
good, because I
don't have a problem if the game's going to do that. You know what I'm saying? Because it can be fun. It can be fun. Randomly putting things together can be fun. But I wonder how much different this game is going to feel later on down the road. I think it's going to be very similar. Doesn't matter which of the different workshops are coming out or anything like that. They all have a very similar feel to it. And that's my main concern.
Oh, the gambling one feels different.
Well, that's one out of like, what, 30?
I've played a good amount of games now, and I haven't felt like it's stagnant. I like that the workshops, the places do come out in different orders, so you might have something stick around right away that normally might not in other games, and that's interesting. You're right that there is a lot of, I mean, it's a card game, right? You are top decking cards, but there's a lot of places that will put cards out face up.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that's gonna balance that out a little bit. The bookshop, the swap, the this and the that, you know. So there's enough of that. You even have the one that lets you just bid on 3 or 4 cards face up, 3 cards face up. You'll get all 3 of those. If you win that, and you can, if you really want to, you can just bid 4. You're losing. You're giving up 4 cards for 3. But I think there's enough sort of card flow to get more or less what you want. You know what I mean? It's just sometimes, yeah, you leave a gap that's too big or not big enough, and then you're in trouble when it comes to that. Right.
I like the game. It's kind of a weird one for me. There's a lot of things I like, and there's a few things I don't. That production thing really irks me.
Yeah.
But the other production thing I really like. So mixing it all together, the saving grace of the game is not very long. It plays very quickly. I like games where you're building a tableau in front of you. I like that the symbols matter, and again, since that tableau is the most important part of the game, because it's so clear and so easy to figure out, I don't mind that.
Right.
And the scoring, the dry erase board, although our marker did not work in the copy we got, but
it did not.
That happens.
Dry.
I just assume
that's
that by now with pretty much any game have some dry erase markers around. So I'm going to give this one heavy tome up. I like it. I'll play it if you ask me. I don't feel the need to own it. I don't know if I go out of my way, but I did enjoy it. There was again, it's all about that. If the book thing made it for me. I love to organize.
I'm kind of right there too. I'm just gonna give it 1 bookshelf up, and it's empty, or
It's about to fall.
Yeah, it's about to fall over.
Rickety.
That's how I usually build those. Yeah. So it was neither here nor there for me, really. I mean, I enjoyed it. I think it's a great design. I think it's well produced for the most part. I just think one of my main things is that I felt like it had too many things that I had to keep track of at the same time. I have to keep track of the numbers. The letters. Am I putting them in order? I had to keep track of the kind of book that I don't want and the kind of book that I do want. Oh, and this other third kind that I also want a lot too. There's just too many things. And I also want to make sure that I'm getting enough of the one that I have the least of, so I get enough. There's just so many different things you got to keep track of, and I found myself laboring over keeping track of that stuff rather than having fun.
Huh.
So that's just my thing. It's neither here nor there. So 1 bookshelf up, but probably will not do any better than
By
that.
next year, it will have collapsed.
Yeah, maybe.
I like it a little bit better than these guys, but I have a couple of issues with it. I'm going to give it 1.5 gelatinous cubes up.
Oh, what is wrong with me?
1 cube that like you cut and you cube it, and then you take half of those cubes. And so you got 1 whole cube and several smaller cubes that made up.
We could actually do that with our copy of Rising 5 and Lex Libris.
You're right, the little cubes. Yes, that's right. But again,
Does someone need components?
Calm down. Calm down. I know you have drawers full of this stuff. The text on the cards, on the placements, for sure. Everything else we mentioned that we had an issue with. I also found the number of locations that get locked if the game draws out a little much. There's so many places. I kind of wish that they would cap out at one place, at one point, and that's as many as get locked. But overall, I did enjoy it, and I find the puzzle is still engaging. I find it to be thematic. It's interesting. I love the theme, and the titles are great. It's a well put together package for the most part, with a couple of weird, sort of glaring issues. Yeah. So 1.5 gelatinous cubes up from me for Ex Libris.
Cool. Organize this one on your shelves. I'm Tom Vassell.
I'm Z Garcia. Thank you, folks.
Sam Healy. On the flip side, folks.
It is on the
Thanks for watching our review today. For more information about board games, as well as the #1 board game audio podcast, check out Dicetower.com for reviews, interviews, and more. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower.